This is the front line in Korea. These mountains are the backdrop for the fighting here. They're swarming with Chinese and North Korean troops.
We were right looking at Chorwon Valley, and there's the enemy. They would lob in some mortars occasionally. When the weather was bad, they were really hunkering too. They were suffering terribly. So that occurred into the spring. All the trees were cut off with artillery. It was like just sticks. And there was nothing growing on the ground. It was all turned up with artillery. It was quite gruesome, but the spring was beautiful. It's a very beautiful place, but there are dead bodies in holes over there. And we seemed to overlook that. We developed a kind of a crust on ourselves in our mind.
Tom was drafted into the US Army in 1950. It came as a shock. His ROTC experience at Indiana University meant he was sent into the infantry.
I reported to Camp Atterbury, and we were then taken by train to Chicago. We eventually ended up in Camp Polk. 7 of us were chosen out of the company to be cadres or instructors. We were actually lifting ourselves from our bootstraps. We had no rank but became teachers. I particularly taught topography and lectured on directional scouting. I also was an expert rifleman. My job was to teach how to fire a .30 caliber rifle on the rifling range. I took the entire company as an enlisted man all the way to Korea.
But not straight to Korea. The company was first sent to Japan for more training.
We took a boat for 3 weeks to camp on Hokkaido Island in Sapporo, the town. Outside of Sapporo was a former Japanese base that we took over, and we lived very happily there, safe.
Safe enough to cool off in the nearby aqueduct, anyway, and shave and wash out in the open. Between marching and drills, Tom got to look around and meet the local people. He even had some time for shopping around Sapporo and sent home to his brother John some fishing gear. But mostly it was marching and drills, and trying not to think about what lay ahead.
We were in a position to be shipped to Korea at moment's notice. One dreary, snowy day, a Jeep drove by our barracks, and it had an ensign of the 7th Cavalry. And they were the forward company for accommodations for their division. They were from Korea. That we knew that was up for us. So we replaced that division in the front lines of Korea immediately.
The patrolling goes on constantly, probing and testing the enemy, harassing his weaker positions. There's sporadic fighting, but it's mostly skirmishing or jockeying for position.
Our anxiety was based on the fact that we were never told exactly what the hell we were doing out there. And what I believe was happening is both sides had sort of agreed to an impasse. There was no great plans for massive invasions or great masses of soldiers. It was an impasse where we were killing them with our great artillery, and they were killing us with their very careful mortaring. And we were both successful. I think 42,000 Americans were killed, and probably 60,000 of the enemy plus thousands of civilians were killed.
The United States was in Korea as part of a United Nations force holding back the invasion of South Korea by the Communist North and China. Tom's company landed at Incheon and moved up to the front lines along the Chorwon Valley and around the 38th parallel.
We were instructed to take our gear and find quarters in caves that were dug into the side of the hill. And most of them were reinforced with sandbags filled with dirt. And that night, the enemy, whoever they were, bombarded us at the side of the hill. They really gave us a barrage. They never killed any of us. I opened my eyes, I could see the flash of the explosion. It was orange and white, and the fragments never got into our sides of the hill, and we all lived through it.
Tom started off leading night patrols, but an idiotic decision to light the fields made him lose some faith in the command.
It was like a scene out of Apocalypse. Some officer had a bright idea of taking 3 searchlights behind the line and shining them on the clouds above the front lines, and it would the bouncing of the light would show everything out there. And here we were out there in the Chorwon Valley when they had these spotlights on, and we thought, oh, we're dead ducks now.
After that debacle, Tom got an offer to help with the food, which he gratefully accepted, although the job wasn't as safe as he thought.
We had 1 day on, 1 day off. It was very arduous and grueling.
If there's no fighting going on, the men at the front get at least 1 hot meal a day. It's prepared in kitchens in the rear and brought up in insulated containers. It's really hot when they get it. That hot meal is pretty important to these guys.
We opened tin cans and heated them up, put them on a Jeep, took them up to the top of the hill near a tank, and fed a full platoon. And it was very, very dangerous. I did that for a number of months. When I was feeding a platoon, guys would get out of their bunkers and walk along the front line, right like this, and they had in their hand their mess gear, which is the main container. And as you walked, the sun would bounce off the aluminum gear, and the enemy would see all this gear walking this particular way. Well, just aim right there where they're going, and that's where I'm feeding.
Tom was close to his South Korean kitchen helpers and shared quarters with them. And there was the occasional entertainment of one kind or another. But mostly it was misery. Cold, monotonous, dangerous misery.
We were in constant feeling of being killed, all the time killed. We were numb. We were brainless, just numb. All we wanted to do was survive, and when we slept, we didn't want to freeze. We wanted to be warm and fed and live. That's all we wanted to do. We couldn't see anybody. They were way across that way.
The war ended with an armistice, and Tom returned home.
What did you enjoy about coming back to America?
That nobody was trying to kill me. It's just the pure luxury of living in any place and nobody is trying to kill you.
Tom wrote home about his experiences from Japan and Korea. Tom's brother John found Tom's letters from Korea too anguishing and asked him, for the sake of their mother, to soften them. It was not a fair or welcome request, but Tom complied all the same.